I guess because I like to draw really edgy things and listen to really angry music, once in a while someone will come up to me and be like, "Hey, you look like the kind of guy to read creepypasta." And the thing is, I don't. But since it's Halloween and I'm actually like really curious, I'll give it a chance. But since I'm an artist and this is like my art account, we're gonna do this in a very art way. Instead of just drawing the characters, I'm gonna redesign the characters, yeah, based on what I've read in their story. And in the end, we'll see how accurate I actually got to them. I found like three characters, Clockwork, Laughing Jack, and Eyelash Jack. Clockwork and Laughing Jack were found on the popular tab of creepypasta.com, and Eyelash Jack recommended by another person. So, with that said, let's carry on. Disclaimer, I did all of the voice recording and editing like 5 hours before October 31st, so the audio is going to be ass, at least in the beginning, and the editing is going to be ass. So I'm sorry about that, but we all procrastinate. The story follows a teenage girl named Natalie. She grows up in an abusive household and she has a really sucky home life. She tries to suppress her feelings the best that she can until her boyfriend breaks up with her, causing her mental stability to slip. And because of this, it leads her to like sew stitches along the side of her face and causes her parents to send her to what I'm pretty sure is like a mental institution where they perform a surgery on her that ultimately ends up botched because when she wakes up, her eyes are green and she's crazy and they accidentally buffed her during surgery because she like one shots all of the doctors and security that comes by. She steals 2 knives from the security guards and then brutally kills the rest of her family. Afterwards, she pops out one of her eyes and stuffs a clock in her eye socket. The story ends with her walking away from her burning house because she lit it on fire. When designing her character, I struggled with deciding whether I should depict her in clothes that she would actually wear or like her hospital gown. I chose hospital gown, seeing as I don't really think she cared what she was wearing when enacting her revenge. And also, I think it kind of embodies the insanity of her character as well. Kind of makes her look like a runaway insane asylum patient, because she kind of is. And it also let me keep the restraints on her, which, alludes to her backstory a little bit. And of course, I added the clock in her eye. I don't know if you could see it very well either, but I had the stitches as well. If I were to go back, I think I'd definitely make those two more of a focal point in her design. When it came to the knives, I literally just googled security guard knife, and that was the first one that came up. I typically make character props like comically large as a style choice, but if I were to go back, I think I'd change this as well because it kind of made her look like really small compared to some of the other characters. Story-wise, though, I actually really liked it. From what I heard, people were saying that like creepypasta is poorly written torture porn, but this like actually subverted my expectations quite a bit. Anyways, that's the final picture. Wow, so and good. Much higher quality. If she doesn't look anything like the actual character, I'm gonna be really surprised because like I don't know how she would look any other way. The next character we have is Laughing Jack. The story follows a single mother and her family consisting of her dog Fido and her son James. She catches her son talking to a quote-unquote imaginary friend named Laughing Jack. Throughout the story, Laughing Jack kind of haunts the family like a poltergeist through creepy-ass dreams and violence. He ends up thrashing like her room and her son's room and like cuts their dog open and stuffs it with candy and hangs it on the ceiling. Later on, he also tricks the mother into killing James, her own kid, which causes her to wind up in a mental institution at the end. Luckily for me, the story gave me a pretty detailed description on what Laughing Jack looked like. His ghost white skin and matted black hair hung down to his shoulders. He had piercing white eyes surrounded by dark black rings. His twisted smile revealed a row of sharp, jagged teeth, and his skin didn't look like skin at all. It almost looked like rubber or plastic. He wore a patchy, black and white clown outfit with striped sleeves and socks. His body itself was grotesque, his long arms hanging down past his waist, and the way that he was poised made him look almost boneless, like a rag doll. I followed the description, I think, pretty faithfully. When it came to his outfit, I took inspiration from like the actual Jack-in-the-Box toys, because they get frequently mentioned throughout the entire story. Like the pom-pom, the mismatched garment thing going on, the frilly collar thing, and the little hat. I even made his torso like a spring too, kind of like how the actual toy is, so it could like spring out of the box. Because, I think it's really unique, and it's like super duper creepy. And again, I also really like this story. Making the main character a single mom, I think was really cool. Like Clockwork being a teenage girl, the main character being a single mom, I think makes the story like especially cruel. There's nothing out of the ordinary about teenage girls or single moms. So it kind of makes the experience feel like a real, you know what I mean? Kind of how like Marion from Psycho and Clarence from Silence of the Lambs were just regular girls. I find that Laughing Jack, it's just like, ooh, that could totally happen to me too, you know what I mean? But I also find Laughing Jack a pretty interesting character as well. I'm sure the fandom has given him a backstory, but I like the mystery around his character. Anyways, wow, here's the finished product. Very spooky. I think this is definitely my favorite out of all three of them. I don't know, just arguably the coolest looking. And last but not least, Eyeless Jack, which makes this 2 Jacks in a row. I've also just realized that there's a lot of creepypasta characters with the name that starts with J. There's Jeff the Killer, Laughing Jack, freaking Eyeless Jack, Jill the Killer. I think that's one. Jane the Killer. Why is that? Anyways, so the story starts off explaining how a botched cult ritual that involved tearing out a boy's eyes and pouring hot bloody tar into his sockets created the serial killer Eyeless Jack, who was also a serial kidney eater. The story follows our main character Mitch as he wakes up with a gash on his cheek. So, he goes on his way to the hospital and he discovers that his kidney has been mysteriously removed. The night of, he suddenly wakes up to find Eyeless Jack just hovering above his bed. Mitch manages to run from the fight and into the woods where he slips and passes out. And when he wakes up, he finds that although he's fine, his brother has been murdered. And when going back to his house to retrieve his things, he finds his brother's corpse next to his own half-eaten kidney. For Eyeless Jack, the only description we get is a creature with a black hoodie and a dark blue mask with no nose or mouth staring down at me. The thing that scared me the most was that it had no eyes, just empty black sockets. The creature also had some substance dripping down from its socket. And I stayed pretty truthful to the description. I gave him the blue mask, I gave him the hoodie. But when it came to his lower half, the pants and the shoes, I just kind of gave him black jeans and white Converse. I'm kind of just assuming that all creepypasta characters look like emos. And we don't really get much of a story from him other than his origins. And we don't know anything else about his character either. So I gave him a surgical scalpel to make him stand out a little different from the rest of, your average serial killers. And, I gave him a needle and thread, seeing how he was actually nice enough to sew Mitch back up instead of just straight up killing him. I don't want to sound mean, but I think this is what people meant when they said that creepypasta was poorly written. He has no personality, and he's not that scary either, honestly. Instead of killing Mitch and eating his kidney, he kindly did it while he was sleeping, and then even set it up back after. I think the scariest person in the story would actually be the doctor. When he was in the hospital, he was in there for the gash in his cheek, and the doctor's oh hey, by the way, your kidney's gone. How did he know that? And even better, he later says, "Have good news and bad news, Mitch," my doctor stated. "The good news is that you have minor injuries and your parents are going to come pick you up." I sigh with relief. The bad news is that your brother's been killed by some ... thing. Sorry. What the hell? Who told you that? And also, is it your job to tell Mitch? What? Yeah, so anyways, it's Eyeless Jack. Based on the story and what I was given, I don't know any other way he would look. So I'm kind of curious to see what he does look like. And now that our lineup is complete, it's time for the moment of truth. So that's that. I think the last two look pretty accurate to their original look. Although, I wasn't really striving for accuracy and just more so how I imagined them while reading. Although I did enjoy reading these, I'm not sure if I'm, invested enough to join the community, you know what I mean? But, overall, pretty surprised how good some of these stories are. Unfortunately, I couldn't include it because, it wasn't an actual character, you know what I mean? But I thought Zalgo's story was pretty neat. But anyways, happy Halloween. It's 6 a.m. for me right now, and bye-bye.